The proposal is not crazy. The proposal is just looking forward, and I want to get to that. But wouldn't you like to put all this to rest? That's what this proposal is about.
Republican Congressman John Campbell of California appeared on Hardball with my colleague Chris Matthews earlier tonight, proving that this is turning out to be a landmark week for the conspiracy theorists known as the birthers. Birthers argue that President Obama secretly isn't actually president because he secretly wasn't actually born in the United States. This despite the fact that the president has posted his born in Hawaii birth certificate online. Little known fact here, Hawaii, U.S. state. It's now 10 House Republicans who are co-sponsoring a Provide the Birth Certificate bill authored by Congressman Bill Posey, a Republican who says he doesn't know whether or not President Obama is actually an American citizen. As we highlighted last night, the birthers are hard at work trying to get their message out. In addition to the 10 sponsors of that bill, all Republicans, Republican Congressman Mike Castle of Delaware found his June 30th town hall meeting momentarily taken over by someone aggressively heckling him on the birther issue. He was then booed roundly for saying that the president is a citizen. Of course, the home run for conspiracists of any stripe is when their ideas can leave the lunatic fringe and enter the mainstream. Enter CNN anchor Lou Dobbs over on our competing network that anchor Campbell Brown says is the only one still doing journalism. Mr. Dobbs is using the platform of his CNN show to advance the birther conspiracy.
A lot of questions remaining, and seemingly the questions won't go away because they haven't been dealt with, it seems possible, to straightforwardly and quickly.
Mr. Dobbs then went even further than that on his radio show.
Well, guess what, folks? There are some issues here that should be really resolved. What's really crazy about this is all the President of the United States has to do is produce a birth certificate. We have a document issue. You suppose he's No, I won't even use the word undocumented. Wouldn't be right.
Get it? He's undocumented. The president is an undocumented. So says Lou Dobbs. Journalism. Joining us now is a reporter who has done a lot of the national legwork on this story, the phenomenon of the birthers, Dave Weigel, who writes for the Washington Independent. Mr. Weigel, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Rachel.
So what is the claim here? The claim here is that producing the birth certificate from Hawaii with a raised seal visible and the signature and everything, that just isn't enough? They want footage of the birthing room or something?
I don't know what they want anymore, because every time Hawaii verifies something, or a reporter verifies something, or a witness verifies something, that witness, that state, that reporter is lying, and their evidence must be thrown aside. We've seen Lou Dobbs do this before, 4 years ago, with his claims about leprosy running rampant in America because of illegal immigration. It's still really disappointing to see him go down this path. This is calling Hawaii, getting this thing verified should be enough for any sane person to put this to bed.
Well, what are the origins of this story? One of the things you've been able to do is really trace it very specifically to where this theory came from.
Well, it started with the Obama campaign. There were rumors a year and change, that Obama's real birth certificate contained a different middle name. Actually, the rumor was his middle name was Muhammad. He changed it to Hussein because Hussein plays better in Iowa, I guess. And their campaign said, okay, we'll do what no one has ever done. We will do what McCain didn't do, Bush didn't do, Hillary didn't do. We will put a birth certificate from the state online. Anyone can look at it. That immediately, instead of settling this, created a cottage industry, people trying to prove this was forged. And then after Hawaii said, no, it's not forged, this came from us, we have another different copy on record that says the same stuff, then Hawaii was lying. Basically, the White House doesn't talk about this, the Democratic National Committee doesn't talk about this, because when they do, it just sends this train down the track a little further. This is more evidence that there's a great conspiracy. It's how conspiracies work.
Well, who in the media or the political world is helping this to cross over from the fringe into the mainstream? I mean, one of the things I love about American politics and Americans in general is that we are enthusiastic about conspiracy theories. I find it very entertaining. But the sort of the holy grail is to, make CNN, to make the mainstream media, to be talked about as if you've got some sort of credible idea.
Right, even hearing yourself debunked on CNN as Kitty Pilgrim, who was hosting for Lou Dobbs One Night, did, that's still coverage. Having Orly Tates and Alan Keyes on TV to ramble about this, that's coverage. That's a breakthrough. I think it's the conservative base that goes to town hall meetings, calls members of Congress, and gets them to give a little on this issue. They're pushing this into the mainstream. Members of Congress, John Campbell on TV, on Hardball today, looked like he was auditioning for the Jack Lemmon role in Glengarry Glen Ross. He looked really embarrassed. Some of these guys who've endorsed this bill, like him, really do want it to go away. Bill Posey, who wrote it, I think has indulged these people. He'll say one thing to a news reporter in Florida, then he'll go to one of these fringe conservative websites or radio shows and say, if I can quote him, I don't know why he doesn't produce it. The only people I know who don't want to take drug tests are people who use drugs. I'm paraphrasing him this much. So there are a few Republicans who push this forward. That's all it needs. Once it's in the media's bloodstream, then we have to cover it, and then Rush Limbaugh can talk about it, and WorldNet Daily can brag that Rush Limbaugh talked about it, and it just keeps on rolling like that.
Of course, one way to cover it is to say, this is totally false, and the people propounding it are kooks, but not everybody feels that way, I guess. Dave Weigel from the Washington Independent, your reporting on this has been really helpful for understanding it. Thanks a lot for joining us, Dave.
Thank you so much, Rachel.